Friends, with great pleasure, let me introduce our keynote speaker for the day, Mr. Narayan Murthy. We all admire him for building India's one of the most respected companies and upholding it to the highest level of governance practices. Mr. Murthy founded Infosys in 1981, which today stands as a highly innovative software services global company listed on NYSE in the US and on the Bombay Stock Exchange in Mumbai, with over $12 billion in revenues and about $62 billion in market capitalization as we speak. In 2014, Mr. Murthy was ranked 13th among CNBC's 25 global business leaders and listed among the 12 greatest entrepreneurs of our time by Fortune in 2012. He has received Legendary Honor from France, CBE from Britain, and Padma Vibhushan from India. The Economist ranked him among the 10 most admired global business leaders in 2005. Mr. Murthy is ranked among the top 10 of the Financial Times list of business pioneers in technology, published in March 2015. He is the first Indian winner of Ernst & Young's World Entrepreneur of the Year Award. Mr. Murthy was elected as a member of the prestigious American Academy of Arts and Sciences in 2019. He is a foreign member of the US National Academy of Engineering and a fellow of the Indian National Academy of Engineering. He received the Founders Medal in 2018 and Hoover Medal in 2012 and the Ernst Weber Medal in 2007, all the three from IAIP. He has received Thomas Jefferson Medal and James C. Morgan Global Humanitarian Award. Currently, Mr. Murthy serves on the board of the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton, New Jersey, and the United Nations Foundation. He has served on the boards of Ford Foundation in New York, HSBC, and Unilever in London. Let's hear his views on corporate governance and boards.
The CFA Institute, the Pune chapter of the CFA Society of India, Ms. Shagun Thukral, Ms. Nimisha Pandit, Sri Arvind Mathur, and my friends. Thank you very much for this invitation to address you on the topic of good governance of businesses. This is an important topical issue. Even though what I say is based on my experience with and the knowledge of listed companies, I believe that these observations hold good even for privately held companies. The economic reforms of 1991 influenced the listed companies in India in three ways. First, India welcomed a large number of global institutional investors. These investors expected Indian listed companies to raise the level of their financial disclosure to match the level in developed countries like the US and the UK. Second, by abolishing the Office of the Controller of Capital Issues, the central government made listing on the Indian stock exchanges an attractive proposition for entrepreneurs. Third, the traditional businesses realized the power of the price to earnings ratio. They embraced the wisdom that a rupee added to the bottom line of their listed companies would add anywhere between 10 rupees and 30 rupees, of course, based on the price to earning ratios of their companies, to their personal wealth. Good governance is about deciding to do the right thing, while good management is about doing the right thing well. Good corporate governance is about creating sustained competitive differentiation in the marketplace to maximize the shareholder value legally, ethically, and on a sustainable basis while ensuring fairness, transparency, and accountability to every stakeholder of a company. That is, customers, employees, investors, vendor partners, the government of the land, and the society. Governance is the reflection of the culture and the values of a company's board and its management. Good governance in a company enhances confidence, trust, and enthusiasm of its stakeholders. Thanks to SEBI, corporate governance levels in India have improved considerably in the last 3 decades. However, during the last 5 years, there have been a few instances of serious governance deficits in some listed and unlisted Indian companies. This has created doubts among international investors and the domestic investors about the quality of corporate governance of Indian companies. The primary functions of a corporate board include ensuring a robust growth of both the top line and the bottom line of the company, protecting and enhancing the reputation of the company, reviewing, critiquing, and improving the strategy presented by the management, setting clear KPIs for the CXOs and other officers of the company, a fair performance-based compensation to the CXOs and other officers of the company after consulting key knowledgeable shareholders and after obtaining the approval of the entire body of shareholders, creating a succession plan for the CXOs and the key officers of the company, identifying risks and taking timely action to mitigate these risks, putting in place systems of information, control, checks and balances, and ensuring that they are working, ensuring full compliance of regulations required by every statutory authority of the land, getting capital and revenue budgets prepared and approved after informed discussions, applying mind, reviewing and approving acquisitions, mergers, dividends, rights issues, bonus shares, and buyback of shares proposed by the management, addressing shareholder grievances in a fair and transparent manner, and installing a robust whistleblower policy and ensuring its proper functioning to address the complaints of whistleblowers. There are 3 key players in a corporate governance system: the shareholders or the owners of the company in proportion to the number of voting shares they hold in the company. The board of directors is responsible for governance of the company. They oversee the management. They are appointed by the shareholders and are therefore accountable to the shareholders. The CXOs and other executive officers form the management of the company. They run the business and they report the performance of the company to the shareholders periodically through the board of directors. The primary corporate governance problem is minimization of agency cost. Agency cost is the cost incurred by the management for achieving the objectives of the company as decided by the shareholders. Agency costs tend to be inflated due to the divergence of interest between the management and the shareholders. In professionally managed companies, such costs manifest as the propensity of management leaders to wring out of a weak board an unjustifiable compensation for themselves and to violate the company rules to use the company's resources for their personal benefits and comforts. In the case of promoter managed companies, this problem generally manifests as the asymmetry of benefits created by these owner managers in their own favor and against the interests of other shareholders. A typical example would be the use of the funds of a listed company owned partially by an owner manager to fund the growth of a private company held wholly or to a large extent by the owner manager, his or her family, and friends. This is generally called a related party transaction. That is, conducting a company's financial transactions with the promoters, the senior management staff, or their relatives or friends. Generally, such transactions result in inflated costs and financial damages to the company and favor the other party in the transaction. Many a time, related party transactions involve paying unusually large severance pay beyond the contracted amount to an officer of the company. Such unusually high and unexplained or improperly explained payments have the potential to raise doubts whether the board is making an attempt to buy the departing officer's silence. The duty of a board is to apply their mind and prevent such transactions. I will speak today on a few important issues connected with making good corporate governance the norm in India. I will talk about creating a competent and value-based board, senior management compensation, whistleblower handling, and the importance of transparency with shareholders. I will not waste your precious time on mundane issues since that information is available in various reports and textbooks. How can good corporate governance become the norm in India? It is simple. We have to create a climate of opinion in business circles that respect is more important than wealth and power. Before taking any decision, if the board and the management of a company were to debate whether such a decision would indeed enhance respect for the company in the eyes of its stakeholders, and whether such a decision would enhance respect for the decision maker in the eyes of his or her peers, bosses, and subordinates, then such a decision is likely to be a sound and respect-worthy decision. Such decisions, as you know, enhance respect for the company in the eyes of the society. How do we create good boards? The first step is appointing a person with competence, character, and commitment to be the chairman of the board. Selection of such a chairman is crucial to the success of a board. The next step is to bring in a set of accomplished, competent, confident, value-based, and independent-minded people as board members. It is a good idea for the board members to be selected based on their expertise in corporate functions like strategy, acquisition, finance, sales, manufacturing, technology, R&D, and human resources. These people may be taken through a robust training and certification program on the business essentials of the company, board governance, and committee responsibilities. The business-specific part of the program is generally held by the senior officers of the corporation. The board governance training may be held by external governance specialists. Every year, there should be a peer evaluation of each member of the board. This exercise is generally handled by the chairman of the nominations committee. The parameters used for such an evaluation are in the realm of board governance. The chairman of the board then sits with each board member, discusses his or her evaluation, and suggests remedies and improvements. The review of chairman's performance is handled by the lead independent director. In some companies, in advanced countries, chairman's evaluation is handled by a group of top 5 or 6 institutional investors. Management remuneration should be based on 3 fundamental principles. 1, a fair multiple of the compensation of the lowest level employee in the company. Full transparency on details of such compensation to shareholders, and full accountability by linking the variable part of the compensation with long-term performance of the company. These days, many experts believe that a ratio of 70 to 80 between the compensation of the CEO and the median salary of the company seems fair. In some well-run global corporations, the compensation of the CEO is discussed with a few top shareholders and their opinion is considered before a decision is made. Then it is placed before the shareholders with full details for their approval at an AGM or an EGM. According to Wikipedia, a whistleblower is a person who exposes information about a secretive, illegal, or unethical activity that is supposed to have taken place in a private or a public organization. The whistleblower may be an internal employee or an outsider. While whistleblowers have been given considerable protection by the law, they may still face protected legal action, criminal charges, and even social stigma. It is very important that whistleblowers are totally honest in their complaint. Whistleblowing should not be an act of revenge by a disgruntled employee. The whistleblower must substantiate his or her complaint with data and facts, else they will be guilty of aligning innocent people and harming the reputation of the organization. No whistleblower has the right to harm an organization on which a large number of families depend for their livelihood. Having put in these caveats, I say that a corporation must provide total protection to whistleblowers against vendetta by the bosses. How should boards address such a whistleblower complaint? An important duty of a board is protecting and enhancing the reputation of the company, identifying and mitigating risk, and discharging its fiduciary responsibilities. Therefore, addressing a whistleblower complaint in a transparent and trust-enhancing manner with alacrity is a must. If the complaint is against a middle or a low-level employee, an internal committee consisting of senior employees not connected with the accused and committed to total fairness and transparency should be sufficient. If the complaint is against any member of the board, including the chairman, the CEO, an executive director, or an officer of the company, there is a tendency among some Indian boards to investigate such complaints themselves, assisted by an outside law firm. This is not a good idea. You cannot be the judge, the jury, and the defendant. Is there a solution? The boards of some globally reputed companies totally recuse themselves from the investigation of the complaint in such situations. The top 10 shareholders, most of whom are institutional investors, are generally requested by the chairman of the board to form a committee of a few highly respected individuals in the society to investigate the whistleblower's complaint in such cases. The company secretary should be fully empowered by the board to provide all the resources, including an external law firm selected by the investigating committee and not by the board, and needed by this committee to conduct a thorough investigation. SEBI may be concerned about the possibility of the friends and sympathizers of a company's board members and officers being appointed to such an investigation committee. If so, SEBI may take over the responsibility of appointing such a committee. After all, you do not get too many whistleblower complaints in a year. If the investigation concludes that the board and the officers of the company did not wantonly perform their fiduciary duties and they contributed to a governance deficit by omission or commission, the investigating committee should recommend to the shareholders that a penalty must be paid by every member of the board and every one of the concerned officers. Unfortunately, the white-collar guilty people in India do not pay any penalty for failing to discharge their fiduciary responsibilities. They are just asked to resign. This is not a good idea. SEBI may evolve a gradation of penalties from a mere warning to blacklisting these board members and officers based on the severity of the governance deficit created by these people. The shareholders may vote the board members out if the report of the committee concludes that the board did not discharge its fiduciary responsibility. Based on the severity of the deficit, the shareholders may also decide to claw back a suitable amount ranging from 20% to 150% of the compensation or the fee received by the board and by the officers during the tenure of the incident reported by the whistleblower. SEBI may consider imposing some additional penalties. Let me now come to the second important issue in good governance. That is transparency. The directors operate at the pleasure of the shareholders. Let there be no doubt about it. Therefore, a shareholder has an unalienable right of access to every piece of information concerning an investigation. The full details of the investigation should be provided on the website of the company so that every shareholder has access to it. The investigating committee or its experts should provide every document of the investigation and should answer every question of the shareholders. My view is that there can be only two exceptions to this rule. The first is that there should not be any selective disclosure provided to any set of shareholders. Second is that any business related information that provides a legitimate competitive advantage to the company vis-a-vis its competitors in the marketplace may not be or perhaps cannot be disclosed to any shareholder. Let me now close with a quotation from President Theodore Roosevelt, who said, and I quote him, "Americanism means the virtues of courage, honor, justice, truth, sincerity, and hardihood. The virtues that made America. The things that will destroy America are prosperity at any cost, the love of soft living, and the get-rich-quick theory of life," unquote. These are truly immortal words that hold good for businesses in all nations. I have hope that our corporate leaders will live up to these seminal words. Thank you very much.